Hey guys, it's Shelby, and you know when I wheel in this little desk with my laptop on it, what time it is? It's time for Professor Shelby. Also why I put together this outfit just to feel a little bit more cool, literally just to make this joke. So if you think it's funny, or you think my outfit's cute, whichever one, give this video a thumbs up for me because this video took a long time for me to put together. If you missed part one to this new series, apparently like every video on my channel turns into a series, but if you missed part one, I'm gonna link it up here and I'll link it below. Basically what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go through some brands that you asked to see. We're gonna take each brand, put it into which one of these categories I think they fit in. The first category is God tier, so I think they're like the best brand in their niche, if you will. Then we have almost perfect. A lot of times this is like the brand is doing really good stuff, but nothing to push them over into something doing super impressive. Mostly good, I'd still purchase. Not good, I wouldn't purchase. And awful, no one should buy from this brand. We probably won't have very many fall into the very last one because these are sustainable brands, but let's see, I don't know. So we're gonna jump right into it after I give a huge thank you to Squarespace for partnering with me on this video. They help make videos like this possible that are really time intensive for me. So if you've ever needed to build a website, if you wanna start an online store, if you just need a domain, make sure you check out Squarespace. There's a link in the description to give you a little discount. Let's hop into it. Like I said, the way this series is working is you request a brand, then you like which brands you want to see the most of, and then those are the ones I'm going to cover. So if you think there's a brand that I missed, let me know in the comments. If you see one that someone else has commented that you like, make sure you give it a thumbs up because that's how I'm going to pick the next ones. Also, I may have talked about the brand that you're asking about in another video, in different videos on my channel where I talk about sustainable brands. So I'll leave that playlist link below if you want to check it out. But the first brand you guys asked about, someone said, basically the top comment on the last video said, more common brands that are carried at big box stores. And the first one was Mrs. Meyers. So I'm just going to say most of these brands carried at big box stores are owned by bigger brands that I personally wouldn't support when I know there are so many other brands doing so many more things and are so much more transparent and more deserving of my money than a giant brand that's owned by S.C. Johnson, which Mrs. Meyers is. The only brand I outright boycott if they are owned by XYZ is Unilever, so take that for what you will. And I know in the past the thought process was, well, I don't have access to refill stores, or I don't have access to the more sustainable version of XYZ. But with the internet, in terms of distance access, because there are different forms of access, which I'm aware, but in terms of what you have access to in your home, as far as like able to get to it, most of the retailers that own small businesses that are not owned by giant conglomerate brands are sold online. So the internet is accessible to almost anyone. And another form of accessibility is obviously their pricing, and a lot of these sustainable brands are doing really good on pricing. So like I say, make sure you check out other videos in this playlist to learn more about those. But Mrs. Meyers, let's talk about it. So their products contain no ammonia, chlorine, parabens, phthalates, formaldehyde, artificial colorants, or phosphates.
Good, I guess.
A lot of brands don't contain those things, by the way. Their palm oil is sustainable palm oil, depending on how you feel about that, but their products definitely do have palm oil in them. And there's a lot of speculation about if sustainable palm oil is even really sustainable. So keep that in mind. They use 25% of recycled plastic in their packaging, which compared to many brands is just not impressive, especially if you're claiming to be a sustainable, green, natural brand. And on top of that, their ingredients glossary is long. Like I literally could not read through all of the ingredients because I would have been there forever. It would have taken me just as long to read through that as it did to create this video. A long ingredients list doesn't always mean it's bad. Chemicals are not all bad. We need to understand that. But for me, that's something that is quite a turnoff. Yeah, I'll leave it there. The whole premise of this brand is that it has the cleaning power of traditional cleaners, but it smells nice, which means there's a lot of fragrance. And studies have shown that under the word fragrance, over 300 different ingredients can be included in that. Personally, for me, I'm quite sensitive to smells, and I don't want my cleaning agents to smell up my freaking house. It's just not my preference. And also, fragrance is incredibly irritating to a lot of people's respiratory systems. But after looking into all this, what made me make the final decision on this brand is that they had absolutely zero certifications to prove anything about their sustainability practices. No B certification, they're not part of 1% for the planet. They didn't even have a bio-based certification. So for me personally, we're giving Mrs. Meyers not good. I wouldn't purchase from. I did in the past. I think I actually have an old video all about this brand and why I think it's not sustainable. But yeah, I'm gonna give them a not good because I wouldn't purchase from them. Next up is another brand that you guys requested from a big box store. This is a cleaning brand called Method. So they are also owned by S.C. Johnson, and that's gonna come into play a little bit later, so keep that in mind. Method compared to Mrs. Meyers is definitely a step up, okay? And let me tell you why. They have a lot of transparency. They do have a lot of data on their site. They've actually calculated their footprint, and they are working to make it better, and they've kept track of how they are progressing in their footprint through their data reports. This is called their benefit blueprint, and you can go and read the entire thing on their website if you're wondering about specific ways they are making their company better. Now here's something that kind of irks me and gets on my nerves, because they make this claim that they are ensuring that their packaging is as green as possible. And that irks me because it's just simply not true. A, you're not even using 100% post-consumer plastic in all of your products, but even that would not be as green as possible when there are other brands out there doing reusable refills, packaging in things that are compostable, moving away from plastic altogether. You using a fraction of recycled plastic in your products is not as green as possible. So many people say this in so many different aspects, but I hate when we say as much as possible, as sustainable as possible, It is possible to be doing more, especially with a brand as big as Method now. They have a lot of money behind them because they are part of S.C. Johnson. So you're not doing as much as possible. That's just a fact. Now here's where it gets a little complicated. I was able to find an article from 2009 where they were cradle to cradle certified. This is an intensive process to get cradle to cradle certified. Where this gets a little tricky is they were taken on by S.C. Johnson in 2017, and there are no published certifications documents on their website showing that they are still currently certified. If they were, they would get a stamp of approval from me. So if they still are, that is literally amazing. That means that their supply chain has been vetted and it is sustainable from a third party, not by their own numbers, by someone else who has strict standards. So if they are, if you can figure out if they are or not, that's great. But it seems that their transparency is not very helpful if I can't find the answer on their website. I was going to give them a step up above Mrs. Meyers, but this is what made me change my mind to bump them up a whole nother level. If you guys don't know what LEED certified is, this is another third-party certification that monitors how your building runs and how it was manufactured or built. I actually was LEED certified when I graduated from college. I thought I would start my own consulting company in this, but basically it takes into account how energy efficient your building is, but also if you're doing things like rainwater catchment, if the building materials you used were reused or claimed from local sources and not shipped all over the world. They think of everything about your building, and there are multiple different levels to which you can get certified from LEED. What I found really, really cool about Method is they actually have the world's first LEED certified manufacturing plant. And not only is it a LEED certified plant, it is the highest certification that you can get. It is platinum. There's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So that is the highest standards for building efficiency as you can get, which I think is really impressive, especially to be the first. So I'm putting Method in the mostly good section. I think this is a pretty good option. I still think they are a giant company and that there are other smaller businesses that your money would be better going towards. But if you're in a pinch, or if this is the only place you are able to get cleaning products, Method is definitely a step up from probably any other brands on shelves. Shifting gears a little bit, we're going to move on from cleaning and talk about a clothing brand. This one is called 4 Days. So the first thing I noticed about 4 Days is that they do publish how many resources their business practices are saving. My question to this was, saving compared to what? I was just so confused what this data was coming from. So that was a little weird to me right off the bat. 4 Days is currently carbon neutral, which I think is a good thing. But where it gets a little iffy is they have this chart, if you will, of goals that they've set for themselves. So one of the things was to become carbon neutral. They achieved that. There's basically only 2019, 2020, and then 2030. And one of their goals for 2020 was to become B certified, but nowhere on their website do they have the seal of approval that they are B certified, nor do they show any certifications, so I couldn't verify that. What this chart stuck out to me in saying is they have goals for 2020, 2019, 2020, then they don't have any other goals until 2030. That seems like a really big gap. Like, I don't know what's going on there. But the most impressive thing about 4 Days is their commitment to a circular economy. A circular economy is the solution to our waste crisis as well as our climate crisis. And a business that has a commitment to that is very good. Also that they just have a general understanding of what that is. They take back their clothing for recycling and they make new clothing from it, which as a clothing brand is really, really good. What I'm confused about is their line. So their clothing is all basically t-shirts and very basic clothing items, which I don't think is nearly enough to fill someone's wardrobe. And I think there are plenty of brands out there doing this already, sustainable basics. So I don't know, it's just not a brand that's really appealing to me at this point. And their brand only goes up to XXL, which is not incredibly size inclusive, so they get a knockdown from me there. And honestly, I don't have a lot more to say because there's not a lot of information on their website. They make some claims, but they don't really fully explain those claims. They don't have certifications, but they have goals to get a certification. And then their goals are set way into the future and there's no plan to how they're going to get there, like we'll see from some other brands today. And the vibe I'm getting from this brand overall is that it's still very much in its infancy and it's not really fully developed yet as a sustainable brand. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're bad because a lot of small brands take time to get these certifications, to publish their sustainability reports, to get the data and all that stuff. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a not sustainable brand or that they're lying or deceiving you. I just don't think that they really are a brand that I would stand behind yet. Surely they'll get there. So with that in mind, basically, that defaults them to mostly good because I think their recycling system is really cool and that is a sustainability pillar of their brand. I just need to see more data to back it up. Now we're just teetering back and forth here, but we're going to go from clothing back to cleaning and beauty products. You wanted to know about Grove. Now, this is a brand that I have actually been offered to work with before. I've worked with them on TikTok. I have not worked with them on my channel, and that's just because I think there are better options out there. That's kind of how I see it. If I'm going to work with a brand and recommend them to you, I want them to be the best in the space that I can find. The best thing about Grove when it comes to cleaning companies is that Grove is not owned by a parent company. The person who founded the business owns the business and operates it. And this is a brand that sells brands, so it's a little bit more complicated because they're kind of like Earth Hero when you think about it. They're selling brands. So me saying I think Grove is a good brand doesn't mean I think every brand they carry is a good brand. So keep that in mind. First thing about Grove that's really important to know is they are a B certified corporation. This is a third-party certification with rigorous standards that businesses have to pass to get this seal of approval. And most of the time, if a brand is able to achieve this, you can assure that within their business, they are doing things responsibly. Something else Grove is plastic neutral. Now there's a really interesting discussion to have here because I really like carbon neutral brands. Brands that mostly sell online because that's the easiest way or the most I guess financially responsible also way to start a business is via online marketing. And so brands that then offset their carbon footprint, I think that's a really good thing to do. I think it's a bad place to stop. So if you are plastic neutral, I also need you to back that up with goals to eventually reduce your plastic down to zero or just in a big way. And that they are set a goal to be plastic free by 2025. Now why I say this is different is because they actually create reports on what they're doing to get there and what they have achieved. Their founder said specifically, a lot of brands will set these goals to be plastic free or zero waste or carbon neutral by XYZ date. A lot of times that date is far into the future, right? 2025 is only 4 years away. And a lot of times the goals that get set by the higher ups, they're not around when those goals are meant to be achieved. And so they're not seeing that process all the way through. They're not laying out the framework and following it. And he made it a point to say, I will still be here 5 years from now when we are going to achieve this goal. I will make sure it gets done. Now still any brand can say that, but publishing reports of how you are getting there is incredibly important, and Grove does that. So I highly respect them, and that's the reason I chose to partner with them on TikTok. Obviously I wouldn't have partnered with them anywhere if I thought they were a bad brand. So I don't think they're doing anything that pushes them into God tier, like nothing super revolutionary. So where I am going to put them is in almost perfect because I think that they're there. I have nothing to criticize them for, just nothing really to push them over the top. Teetering back to clothing, this is a brand called Newen, which I didn't know about, I guess because it's not a US brand, so I don't really find out about those so often. It's whatever you request is what I'm going to put in the video. So make sure you leave your request below. First off, I appreciate Newen's efforts in size inclusivity. That was the first thing I noticed. First thing they're getting a thumbs up from me on. Their transparency in their factories is very, very good. You can find so many details about how they pay their workers, how they give them days off, how they make sure that what's happening in their factories is ethical, all that sort of stuff. Huge thumbs up on them from me. I didn't expect to love this brand as much as I did once I started doing research on them, but I'm definitely gonna place an order after this video. They do manufacture in China, but the founder of this brand actually owned the first factory that they used. So it was something where he was there on the ground, seeing who they were hiring and setting up the manufacturing guidelines, if you will, and what they're going to follow to ensure that they are doing things sustainably and ethically, which I was really impressed by. They're not just using like some third-party manufacturer where they're not always there to monitor what's going on. And what I was really, really impressed by is the materials that they use. So they're using a ton of sustainable recycled materials, all different kinds, cotton, wool, also materials that are more sustainable like tencel. Their fibers, their materials are really, really impressive. And when I went to look at their individual item pages, what I really, really, really liked, this transparency is really cool. I wish more brands would do this. They have different factories, right? They don't all come from the same factory. They don't all follow the same protocols, etc. When you're purchasing your items and you can't check if a brand's transparency for their factories is very clear, if they would just put that information on each item, then we could make informed decisions as consumers. That's what Newen is doing. Why aren't more brands doing this? So there are 3 little drop downs that you can choose. What your item is made from, where it was made, and how will it be packaged? So that if you don't want to receive plastic in your packaging, and it says that in the drop down, then you don't purchase it. I love their intention to circularity. They have different products that have a stamp of being circular so that it's easier to recycle and reuse and all that sort of stuff. So seeing the word circular from a brand is really important to me. Honestly, I'm really impressed with this brand. Their transparency is great. I think what they're doing is awesome. I am going to place an order after this, and I think after that, I might even be able to bump them up to God tier. But for now, I'm going to take a step back, not get overly excited, see what their brand is like in terms of quality as well. So for now, we're gonna put them in almost perfect because I was just very impressed. Seems you guys had a lot of questions about cleaning brands this time, and I am going to be doing a cleaning routine coming up very soon. Stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on your notifications. So Dr. Bronners is going in the God tier. I'm surprised that people had questions about this, but it got thumbs up quite a bit. So I'm just gonna go over some of the reasons that Dr. Bronners gets God tier in my eyes. Number 1, their brand is set up as a profit share company. They don't just set minimum wages for their workers. This makes all the employees involved invested in making this brand as good as it can be. I wish more brands were founded this way. I understand this is a hard thing to do for smaller brands, but obviously Dr. Bronners has gone on to be quite a big brand, so the fact that they're able to do this, I really, really love. And Dr. Bronners is not owned by a parent company.
Okay.
They have extensive transparency and collaboration within their supply chain so that they have a vested interest in helping their people at each step of the supply chain become more sustainable in their practices. They support regenerative agriculture, which I think is incredibly important. And yes, their bottles are plastic, but they are 100% recycled plastic. And to top it all off, they calculate and publish the entire footprint of their business. Dr. Bronners is a God tier business. Fight me. I put these 2 brands next to each other because I don't have a ton to say about them. This next one is a clothing brand called Reformation, which I have purchased from in the past, and I'm not completely boycotting them, but let me just tell you that there have been some anecdotal situations or anecdotal, I guess, experiences that have come out about racism within their company. Now, I don't think that it's fair to base an entire business's standpoint on a serious issue like this from 1 or 2 employees who experience something with a manager, etc. I do, however, think that if this is happening and a brand does not address it, then there's concern there. I'd personally like to see Reformation take more swift action when things like this happen, so that's my first kind of like, ugh, about the brand. But before any of that came out, I was actually not boycotting the brand, but taking a step back from supporting them because they seem to be launching new pieces like every other day, similarly to a fast fashion brand. And most of Reformation's pieces are made of sustainable materials, like not polyester. If they do use polyester, it's recycled. They use sustainable fibers like organic cotton and tencel and stuff like that. Those materials are sustainable, but I'd like to see more recycled materials in your product, especially if you're releasing new items like every single week. They're not a B certified corporation, which gives me pause. This one's really complicated, but right now I'm not purchasing from them, so I'm going to put them in not good. I'll circle back on this brand in a future video, but I wanted to include it because so many of you asked about it. Those are my thoughts on the brand at the moment. Next up is Rothies, and this is a brand that makes shoes. If you guys have never heard of them, they have a similar kind of like thought process to Allbirds in that you can wear them and then you can wash them, helping you keep them clean very easily. First thing I noticed about Rothies, and this is always a red flag to me with a brand, is that they did not have an About Us section at the top of their website. To me, that's never a good sign, because if you have good things to show off, you want people to know about it first. So they are using sustainable materials because their shoes are made of recycled plastic, they use an eco-friendly rubber, and they offset their entire carbon footprint. But that's it. There is a serious lack of transparency with this brand that gave me a lot of pause. So after looking over their website, let me tell you what questions I had that need to be answered in order for me to think of them as transparent and sustainable. First question is, where do you source your wool? They use wool in their shoes, but they don't disclose how those sheeps are treated, where it's coming from, all that sort of stuff. What type of eco-friendly rubber are you using? The word eco-friendly doesn't mean much. I need to know where it's sourced, how it's grown. Is it certified sustainably, like you can get sustainably grown wood? Is your rubber certified to be eco-friendly, like you're saying? Do you plan to create a take-back program for your shoes? There are brands out there like Allbirds, they don't already have a take-back program, but they are working on it, and they're publishing ways that they're working on it. They're not just saying that they are. And I think to be justified as a sustainable shoe brand, you kind of need to at least have that in mind. Do you plan on doing that? There's nothing on the website that says they are. Do you track your own footprint, and are you planning to do anything in addition to offsetting your footprint? What is your footprint? And if you're going to stop at carbon offsetting, I don't think that's necessarily the most sustainable option. What else are you doing? Where are your products made? Are the people who are making them paid fair wages? And do you have any certifications? They say that they have targets to become a zero waste company, but not by when and not how. So basically the whole idea of Rothies, sustainability stops at, we use recycled plastic. I wouldn't say not to buy them, because I do still think that they are doing sustainable things, and there aren't that many sustainable shoe brands out there. And so I think I'm just gonna throw them into mostly good or not good. I'm gonna put them in mostly good. I'm wondering if I reached out to them if I could get answers to these questions, so I will do that, and if I get an answer before I publish this video, I'll leave it here on the screen. Then we have a brand called Booty. These people make like bras, underwear, leggings. They don't make leggings for me. They don't make leggings in my size. Right off the bat, bamboo is a natural material that is fast growing, and I think it can be a sustainable material, but you also have to think about how many toxic chemicals have to go into taking that item from being a tree and turning it into being a fiber. And they actually kind of address this on their website with a 3-icon graphic. Very basic. It basically just says that they use eco-friendly solvents and stuff like that. But after reading this and seeing no certifications to back that up, my questions are, what solvents do you use? So I can judge for myself if science says that is a sustainable solvent. And what is your softening solution? So again, I can use a third party to determine if that's eco-friendly instead of you telling me that it is. Next is something that happened to me personally years ago when I ordered from them. So they could have changed this by now, but I did order from them probably 3-4 years ago, and I really thought that their quality was low. Their leggings were see-through, and I wasn't even a fan. They do claim to have zero waste manufacturing, but keep in mind that calling a manufacturing process zero waste at this time is not certifiable. There are no certifications really to prove this. So I would love to see if there could be more transparency of how they're doing that, what they're doing, because they just say that they are zero waste manufacturing without backing it up with anything. So the lack of transparency here, coupled with my experience with purchasing from them years ago, I'm putting them in the not good. I wouldn't buy from them. They also don't make my size, so they get another knockdown from me there. Sorry, not sorry. And last but not least, so many of you wanted to know about Madewell. And let me just tell you that I wish I could give Madewell a higher ranking than I'm about to give them, because probably about 50% of the clothes that I wear are Madewell. They're all purchased secondhand on ThredUp, Goodwill, Poshmark. But Madewell is not a sustainable brand. There is no about them at the top of their page, which, like I say, is always a red flag for me. At the bottom of their site, there's still no information about sustainability. There's no link to sustainable practices here at all. There is, however, a link to a few different things that I was impressed by. So this is going to be their COVID, they're addressing coronavirus. They also have a Black Lives Matter link, and they have a social responsibility link. The social responsibility link links to a whole 6 pages worth of transparency about their factories with no data and no figures. And honestly, there's not much more to say here because they don't post enough for me to even judge them off of, which is a problem in and of itself. They do make things from recycled materials from time to time. They did a partnership, I think, with Buffy where they made a jacket, etc. I think that there is a way to shop with Madewell that is sustainable because their quality is better than fast fashion. So if you're buying something with the intention of keeping it for a long time, I do think that this could be a brand that you can buy from that is sustainable. My issue then is, where's the transparency for how their workers are treated and paid? Is that a brand that you want to be supporting when you don't know for sure if your money is going to the mistreatment and exploitation of workers? As sad as it makes me, because I would love to be able to buy from Madewell, we're going to have to put Madewell in the not good, because I wouldn't buy from them new. Buy them all you want secondhand, but giving your money to them without this transparency, I would not recommend. Well, that was a long one. If you are still here, please let me know in the comments and give this video a thumbs up. Like I said, these types of videos take me a long time to make. And I would love to hear what other brands you want to see as I continue this series. And also, I want to give another huge thank you to Squarespace for making content like this possible, you guys. If you ever need to build an online store, website, if you just need a domain, do it with Squarespace, and let's hear a little bit more about them. Like I said, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform, so you can look to them to build an online store, website, or even just if you need to purchase a domain. Squarespace makes setting up a website super easy because you don't need to learn coding. They already have some beautiful templates over there that you can customize to be exactly what you're looking for. Squarespace makes it easy to connect your social media and to also take advantage of their blogging tools. You can do email campaigns through Squarespace because it is an all-in-one platform, like I mentioned. With their 24-hour customer service and traffic insight tools, it makes it the easiest way to build a website on the internet today. So when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/Shelbizleee for 10% off of your first purchase.